Hey, welcome to today's episode. In this video, we'll be painting an environment concept art and we'll try to achieve this moody, slightly eerie feeling to it. I will show you also the black and white composition sketch and the rest of the process. My name is Victor, I'm a concept artist and illustrator working for film and games. I really hope you guys will enjoy this video and find it helpful. So let's start. For this image, we're gonna start with a black and white thumbnail sketch. It's a very rough, very quick approach to put your ideas, your vision down on the canvas. And it's really cool if you're in the habit of doing as many of this as possible, filtering out ideas, working with your references. It's really helpful. And at first, I'm working with very broad brushstrokes. I'm just trying to place those values on the canvas, thinking about some proportions, like for example proportions of shapes and the relation between them, and also proportions of light and dark. I was thinking maybe I should go for a 70% darker values and maybe 25-30 lighter values and sort of create this dynamic transition between the planes. I'm also thinking about the composition of the image in general, and in this case specifically the placement of the character. I've deliberately strayed from the rule of thirds, for example. You might heard that it's recommended oftentimes if you want to have a readable image to place your focal point at the intersection of those lines, but in this case I specifically place the character as close to the left as possible, as close to the border of the canvas, because I wanted to achieve this feeling of uneasiness. The character is smaller and it sort of feels like it's the environment, it's pressing upon it, and there's this idea of isolation and proportion. So that's why I placed it so far on the left instead of making it to be a bit more central, like it would be if it would be placed at the intersection of the rule of thirds. Later on, once you're done with your black and white thumbnail sketch, you can use it as a reference, or you can trace over some simple line work on top of it. It's easier like this, because in this case, this black and white sketch is not really useful to apply color on it directly, but it's useful as a standalone composition sketch. And once I'm done with a very rough line work sketch, I can proceed with figuring out what kind of mood, what kind of colors I want to place down. So you can work with your reference at this stage, you can find inspiration from other mediums. And right now I've made my decision towards this pale, sort of desaturated hues, and I'm gonna continue working on them and pushing them further until I'm getting close to the idea I had in mind, to the idea we explored in the comp sketch, right? This dark environment. So you can see here I'm using Ctrl-M to adjust the values and to make sure that we're slowly punching those values and getting closer to our final result. By the way guys, there is a free link with some of my most used brushes in the description, and also lots of full process tutorials with more explanation and source files on my Patreon page, for those of you that want to learn even more. And another thing I wanted to mention is that there are different ways you can achieve this type of looks. For example, you can be very blunt about it and create these spiky shapes everywhere, very dark atmosphere, and all those aggressive kind of toxic colors and everything. And you can sort of be a little bit more subtle, and this is kind of the option I prefer in this case specifically. I just wanted to kind of cover this whole thing from a different angle, maybe like make this forest look dangerous and maybe not so pleasant to be there, but also not very evident. We could make some good use of colors by applying these desaturated hues, like colder hues around the image, maybe in the background, in the middle ground, and this in return will maybe sort of kind of give us the feeling of decay in this location, maybe sort of a heavy air roaming around and not being pleasant overall. Because whenever you use this desaturated white, for example, this kind of pristine colors, they kind of signify that there's not a lot of life in that place or character or whatever. And in this case I've also tried to use shapes as well to emphasize that this place is not a very cheerful one. Obviously these branches from the tree trunks, from the roots, they create like sort of a hook type of shapes. The lighting in general and the colors I use all sort of hint towards that this place is not your, ordinary walk in the park. This approach works great, especially when you don't want to be very evident about your story at first, and maybe the player or the viewer, whenever it's a video game or a movie, can pick up on it not right away. At first you pay attention to the character, and then you're like noticing where the character is looking, and you're seeing like, hey, this place, something wrong with it. I'm adding some framing elements, and you guys saw that in the beginning I wanted to place them on the lower right side, but then I changed my mind and I wanted to frame this image on the upper right corner so that the viewer's eye is not leaving the whole canvas right away. I'm gonna finally spend some time on the character, and I'm just gonna change the music as well to fit the scene better. We are back to non-scary music, and right now you can see that I'm polishing the image. I'm roaming around various areas and changing the size of my brush strokes to smaller for more details. I'm making sure that some planes are well defined. I'm also trying to find a balance between the colors, the warmer hues in the background and a colder sort of environment in the foreground, and I'm still not decided yet how much of the contrast it has to be between those two. And that would be basically all in terms of, additional information that I'm gonna actually paint on the image. Right now we're just sharpening some edges, making sure that some values are more unified, and so on. Alright, so this is the final painting. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the process and find it helpful. If you did, please consider liking and subscribing, it means a lot. Also, don't forget to ask any questions you have in the comments below. Thanks again for watching till the end, and I hope to see you in the next one, coming soon.